I'd like to call our second evening of our annual town meeting to order, seeing we have a quorum present of town moderator, town clerk, and 23 voters at least. Before I begin, I'd like to share some feelings. Certainly an apology to my neighbors for not mowing. I've been busy with all this paperwork, but I'll get to it tomorrow. We lost a lot of participants last night due to the rain. They drove around, they couldn't find a parking spot, and a lot of seniors didn't even bother coming out, so we probably would have had the overfill into the other room. During the course of the evening, around 100 voters left before the final vote. We are able to see this broadcast on channel 191. We're able to read Chris Lindell's article today in the Daily Hampshire Gazette. What we did not see is snippets on several TV stations. That's where my feelings come in. Several years ago, 8 years ago, 9 years ago, when I was first moderator, 10 years ago, Reggie Shea Sullivan, the administrative assistant, would alert me that there were cameras in the room, and we had them removed. She took care of it, gone. I never had any complaints. Last year, I don't remember having any TV cameras. Last night, we had two. I received a phone call from an upset TV producer who was concerned that his cameraman was asked to leave by the town moderator. I quickly informed him that I did not do that it was the deputy moderator who did it. But I fessed up. But I fessed up with my request. So the cameras were removed. The TV producer said, "This is a public meeting, we have the right." And I said, "Yes or no? This is a town meeting, and the responsibility is solely the town moderator." And personally, my feelings, and especially as a photojournalist, is certainly to have transparent government and provide the facts, but to protect people's rights. And having a wide-angle view during voting by channel 191, or having a general image captured by the Daily Hampshire Gazette reporter isn't the same as having a TV camera zoomed into our faces and indicating how we are voting, a group, a patch of voters, yay or nay on a particular article. I believe that invades our privacy. Certainly a camera view from the back with everyone's hands up, no faces are identifiable, but somewhere the line is crossed. You may not care. Great. We find out after tonight, but I care. And I'm satisfied with the newspaper, I'm satisfied with channel 191, but the TV needs to create a more sensationalized snippet. And unlike a newspaper that we can put down and pick up, unlike channel 191 where we can see it over and over again or go on a website and take a look at it, in TV it passes across our eyes. So it needs to be strong, it needs to be demonstrative. I'm not so sure you want to be seen yawning, not that anybody would yawn while I'm talking, but you know, there's a line here. So the TV producer suggested, actually said we should, and use the judgment word, have something on our website. That's the purview of the town administrator. Certainly we'll be talking about that. But the concept is these are guidelines that don't have to be written down as other traditions are, but I wanted to share that with you. I think that's it. We're going to continue where we left off. I'd like to hear a motion for Article 4, please.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town to vote to accept the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 60, Section 15B, and to authorize the town accountant to establish a tax title collection revolving fund for the treasurer collector.
Motion made. To hear a second.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Finance Committee recommendation is recommended.
Hi.
Aye.
For those who may be new tonight, Heather Bajrowitz, Town Administrator.
So on this article, I'm going to read the note out into the record here. Acceptance of this Mass General law sets the stage to establish a tax title collection revolving fund, which in turn will make collection of back taxes somewhat easier, and that fees and related charges will now be paid from the revolving fund rather than from the limited general funds. Article 14A on this warrant later on establishes the revolving fund as allowed by acceptance of this Mass General law. All this piece is here is accepting the law so that we can move forward and vote whether or not to accept and create a revolving fund.
Thank you. Any questions? Comments? Seeing none, we'll vote. All in favor of the motion under Article 4 as read, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion under Article 4 passes unanimously. May I hear a motion under Article 5, please?
Article 5, Section A. I move the town to vote to transfer the sum of $15,000 to cover additional encumbered legal expenses. Said sum shall be taken from the operational stabilization account.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Who would like to address this?
Vicki Morrow, Town Accountant, Pomeroy Meadow Road.
And Vicki, hold on a sec.
Yes.
I'm going to divide the question in A and B, so please continue on A.
Okay. Excuse me. Currently, in FY15, we budgeted $22,500 for our legal expenses, and we were on task for being on budget, but recently the Select Board engaged in a legal project that was going to go over above and beyond that $22,500, and so in order to be able to cover that deficit, once we pay those bills, we need to take this money out of our operating stabilization to cover it.
Thank you. And by the way, the Finance Committee recommendation is it's recommended. Anybody else like to speak on this motion? Okay, we're going to vote. We're going to vote on A of Article 5. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. Did I hear a nay? Motion passes by majority. And we need accounters for the 2/3. This needs a 2/3 vote. So raise your cards. Pink cards. You raise a yellow card from last night, you will be escorted to the next room where you'll be served popcorn. Private joke. Keep them up while they're counted.
$25.
25.
25.
25. Okay. And nay, please raise your card and counters count the nays.
Two.
2. None, okay, 2. 50 to 2, which meets the required 2/3. The motion A under Article 5 passes by majority. B, who would like to speak on B?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town to vote to transfer the sum of $10,000 to cover police department communication wages. Said sum shall be taken from the operating stabilization account.
Thank you. Motion made.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Who would like to address this? Vicki?
Vicki Morrow, Town Accountant, Pomeroy Meadow Road. Currently, the communication wages will become in a deficit by the end of the year to cover all the shifts for all the individuals for the dispatch center. As you know, the dispatch center can't be left without anyone monitoring it, and so this will cover the funds that will be needed to pay those wages by the end of the year. You know, the past history has been where the communication wages has been between $185,000 and $188,000, depending on overtime. And we did not fund it completely this year, not knowing what the outcome would be, and so we need to be able to pay those wages for the end of the year.
Thank you. And the Finance Committee recommendations, not recommended. Finance Committee recommends utilizing funds available in the 9/11 grant rather than transferring the amount from operating stabilization. Anybody else like to speak on this? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion under Article 5B, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. I'm going to take a count. All those in favor, please raise your, we need an exact number on 2/3. All those in favor, please raise your pink cards.
Eight. 12.
How much?
12.
12. You can lower that. Okay, fine. Thanks. Those opposed to the motion under 5B, raise your cards, please.
$11. 23.
11 and 23. The motion fails by 1234. I'd like to hear the motion for Article 6, please.
Mr. Moderator, I move to pass over Article 6.
Motion made, do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. Somebody give me an explanation. I know, but we have to do this officially.
Based on the conversation that Lisa Broder McGann gave us last night, the Board of Health has voted to pass over this article.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor to pass over, take no action on the motion under Article 6, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. The motion to pass over passes unanimously. Motion for Article 7, please.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town to vote to transfer the sum of $20,401 to fund the amortization of the WPAT bonds, and the sum shall be taken from the WPAT loan repayment account.
Motion made, there a second?
I second it.
Motion made and seconded. Finance Committee recommendation is recommended. Who would like to address this motion? Vicki.
Vicki Morrow, Town Accountant, Pomeroy Meadow Road. This is a basic housekeeping issue where we borrowed money for the Water Pollution Abatement Trust, and it's just taking the money from that fund to the general fund to pay back the loan where we borrowed the money.
Thank you. Any comments? You ready for discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. Motion under Article 7. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion under Article 7 passes unanimously. Motion under Article 8, please.
I move that the town to vote to transfer the sum of $75,000 to fund the EMS ambulance-related expenses. That sum shall be taken from the ambulance receipt reserves for appropriation account.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. The Finance Committee recommendation is recommended. Who would like to address this? Vicki.
Vicki Morrow, Town Accountant, Pomeroy Meadow Road. Each year, we have taken money from this ambulance receipts reserve for appropriation to offset the expenses for the ambulance department. This fund was set up back in 1984 specifically for ambulance-related expenses.
Thank you. Any comments, questions, any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion under Article 8 as read, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. The motion under Article 8 passes by majority. Motion under Article 9, please.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town to vote to appropriate the sum of $222,363 to the Transfer Station Enterprise Fund or take any action related thereto to be funded from the following sources: revenues from the sources of permits, charges, bag fees, recycling, investment income, and retained earnings, and the WEPAT subsidies in the amount of $222,363. Expenses from the following lines: wages, operating expense, debt service, principal and interest, plus indirect costs in the amount of $222,363.
Plus the
Second.
indirect costs.
$13,037.
For a total of $222,363. Motion made, do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. The Finance Committee's recommendation is not within the purview of the Finance Committee. Who would like to address this, please?
Good evening, Randall Kemp, Southampton Highway Superintendent, Transfer Station Manager. This is the same budget we pass every year. It's an enterprise fund, so the expenses equal what we get in revenues, unless there are any questions.
Anybody have any questions? Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. I can see your hand. Come forward to the mic. Apparently, we may not have speakers in the back, so we really need to get close to the mic.
Name is Barbara LaFlamme. I live at 20 Cook Road. I would like to know, do we have no debt or on this particular enterprise fund? I notice there is no principal or interest payment. Is that because we do not incur any debt?
Thank you. Who can answer that question? Vicki?
Yeah, if you just look here, it says debt service instead of under principal and interest. It's just a naming. It's just under the, under a different name instead of principal and interest, but we do have capping loan and interest on this particular enterprise fund.
Thank you. Did that answer your question, Ms. LaFlamme? Okay, great. Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion under Article 9, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion on Article 9 passes unanimously. May I hear a motion for Article 10, please?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town to vote to appropriate the sum of $633,999.32 for the Water Enterprise Fund, or take any action related thereto to be funded from the following: revenues from the accounts of water charges, hookup charges, investment income, retained earnings, and the WPTA subsidies, and to be expended from the following accounts: salary and wages, operating expenses, capital outlay, debt service, plus an indirect cost, for a total of $633,999.32.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded, and the Finance Committee's recommendation is not within the purview of the Finance Committee. Who would like to address this, please? Vicki?
Excuse me. Vicki Morrow, Town Accountant. Basically, this is another enterprise fund that the town has, which is under the Water Department. And in the way that we budget it is that our revenues must be equal to our expenses, and the Water Department supervisor and I, our superintendent and I, went over these numbers to make sure that they all matched and made sure he had what expenses he needed in there.
Thank you. Any comments, questions, discussion? Yes?
Dan Pellegrini, Crooked Ledge Road. Question, the 220 debt services. Can you explain what the 220,000 is?
Thank you.
Sorry about that. Too many papers.
No worries.
Okay, so we have principal and interest on water expansion, a water line number 3, and Pequot County Road, and a water upgrade. These are debt services that we incurred. Do you know how long? Yeah. You know, these will go on for at least the next 10 years, and these are the principal and interest payments that we need to pay back these each year.
Thank you. That answered your question, Ms. Pellegrino? Great. Any other questions, discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion on Article 10, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion on Article 10 passes unanimously. Last night, we did Article 11 and Article 12. So we're going to continue to Article 13, which is page 8 of 11. And this is a community preservation, and as moderator, I'm going to divide the question, and we'll be voting on each of the subsections. I need a motion.
Mr. Moderator, I move report of Community Preservation Committee. Move the town to hear and act pursuant to the Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44B, on the report of the Community Preservation Committee for the fiscal year 2016 Community Preservation Budget, and to appropriate and reserve from the Community Preservation Fund the following sums of money as recommended by the Community Preservation Committee for the committee administrative expenses, community preservation projects, and other necessary and proper expenses in fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2015, with each item to be considered as separate appropriations. The reserves from FY 2016 estimated revenues for historic resources reserve $17,900. From FY 2016 estimated revenues for community housing reserve $17,900. From FY 2016 estimated revenues for the open space reserve $17,900.
Thank you. And second.
Second.
Motion made and seconded.
Virginia A. Hart, 27 Fulmer Road, Chair of the Community Preservation Committee. This A is the one we do each year, which is a housekeeping thing. The funds that come in over the year, including the state grant and what is collected on our surcharges, need to be designated into the 3 areas, which is historic resources, community housing, and open space. And that's open space recreation now. Those can only be used in those areas. All the rest of the funds go into undesignated and can be used in any one of those 3. And it's just our housekeeping. We do it every year.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion under Article 13A, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion under Article 13A passes unanimously. May I have a motion for Article 13B?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town to pass over Article 13B, transfer of funds undesignated FY15 to fund the completion of the additional project for Larrabee Fields.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion is made and second to pass over. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor to pass over 13B, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. It passes over unanimously. Motion for Article 13C, please.
I move the town to vote to transfer the amount of $10,000 to fund the administrative expenses of the Community Preservation Commission. Said sum shall be taken from the Community Preservation Surcharges undesignated account.
Motion made. Here a second.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Virginia.
The committee may use a small amount for our administrative kind of costs. If somebody wanted to go to a conference, we can also, if say a piece of land came up for sale, and we were considering it, that the appraisal of that could be under that. There's a number of things. These funds are the only ones that the committee actually can use without town meeting approval. If we don't spend them all in a year, and generally all we do is put 3 ads in the Gazette during the year, they go back into undesignated funds. And as most of you, I think, know, community preservation funds are separate, and what we don't use this year stays with us.
Thank you. Any questions, discussion, comments? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion on Article 13C, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. The motion under Article 13C passes unanimously, and I'd like to hear a motion for 13D, please.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town to vote to transfer the amount of $5,000 to the Veterans Grave Officer to be used to fund the purchase of 10 flat markers for the veterans' graves. Said sums shall be taken for the Community Preservation Surcharges Historical Preservation Account.
Motion made, and here a second.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Virginia.
This is an ongoing project that Dick Frary has been working on. He used to be able to get these markers for nothing from the VA. Now we have to, somebody has to pay for them, and he's trying to get all of those veterans' graves marked. The only people that can get them free are direct descendants of the person that's buried there. And they're pretty hard to find when it's Revolutionary War soldiers. So he's been doing this 10 at a time, because that's about what they can get in over the year.
Any other comments, questions, discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All in favor of the motion on Article 13D, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion on Article 13D passes unanimously. May I hear a motion for 13E, please?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town to vote to transfer the amount of $1,500 to the Veterans Graves Officer to be used to fund the restoration of the Revolutionary War and Civil War veterans' monuments. Said sum shall be taken from the Community Preservation Surcharges Historical Preservation Account.
Hear a motion, or hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Virginia.
This, too, is an ongoing kind of project, because a lot of the stones in the cemetery have become very weathered and very damaged, and their goal is to try to get most of those restored as much as they can.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion under Article 13E, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion on Article 13E passes unanimously. May I hear a motion for Article 13F, please?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town to vote to transfer the amount of $10,500 to the Cemetery Commission to be used to fund the restoration of the Judd memorials in the Center Cemetery. Said sum shall be taken from the Community Preservation Surcharges Historical Preservation Account.
Motion made. Hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Virginia.
Yes, if you haven't walked through the cemetery and gone down on the left-hand side, way in back, you've missed 2 very interesting monuments. And they are to Jonathan Judd Sr. and his wife. Reverend Judd was the first minister here in Southampton. And these are very unique, but they are very, very weathered. The plan is to do as much restoration on the stones as they can. They're actually like small tables. And then to provide brass plaques that will have on it exactly what was on the stone originally that can no longer be read.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion under Article 13F, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. The motion under Article 13F passes unanimously. May I hear a motion for Article 13G?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town to vote to transfer the amount of $11,000 to the Board of Selectmen to be used to fund the installation of automatic door openers for the double set of external doors for the Council on Aging doors and for the main entrance door to the Town Hall to meet accessibility standards for the Town Hall Larrabee Building. Said sum shall be taken from the Community Preservation Surcharges Historical Preservation Account.
Motion made. To hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Virginia.
This may seem like a kind of strange article for community preservation to be bringing forward, but in fact, the Larrabee Building is a historical building. It was the school, now the new town hall. I don't know why the doors are the way they are, but they have been since the building was renovated. And they do not allow easy access for people, not just people with handicaps, but for people to get into both the senior center and the main doors. I think it's kind of sad when you walk up to a town hall and the main door says, "Ring if you need help to get in." It should be one that people can get into without having to wait for a staff member to come. But anyway, because it is a historical building, community preservation funds may be used for accessibility issues. And this came because this was on the Capital Improvements Committee, and they invited me to a meeting to see what community preservation might do. This was the only one we could do.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion on Article 13G, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. The motion on Article 13G passes unanimously. May I hear a motion for Article 13H, please?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town to vote to transfer the amount of $1,000 to the Conservation Commission to be used to fund signs for the SCIPTA Conservation Area Trails. Said sum shall be taken from the Community Preservation Surcharges Open Space account.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded, Virginia.
Some time ago, we brought community preservation brought an article to a town meeting for work to be done on the Zipka farm. Trails, brochures, all sorts of things. But what wasn't included was trail signs. And they actually returned funds to us when they finished their project. I could not give them the approval to use monies that had not been voted by the town meeting for something that wasn't in their article. And this is what they wanted the signs to finish that project. And I said, we'll put it on this year specifically for your signs.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, we'll vote under motion under Article 13H. Please signify by saying aye. Those in favor? Aye. Those opposed, please signify by saying nay. The motion under Article 13H passes unanimously. Thank you so much, Virginia Ahart.
And thank you.
Motion for Article 4. I will divide the question. We will deal with each section. I'd like to hear a motion for Article 14A.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town to vote to accept the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 60, Section 15B, Chapter 390 of the Acts of 2014, to establish a tax title revolving fund to be spent by the Treasurer Collector for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2015, to which fund shall be credited any fees, charges, and costs incurred by the Treasurer Collector under sections General Law, Chapter 60, subsections 15, 55, 62, 65, 68, or 79, and collected upon the redemption of tax titles and sales of real property acquired through foreclosures of tax titles, and which amounts may be expended for expenses incurred under General Law, Chapter 60, in connection with a tax taking or tax title foreclosure, including but not limited to fees and costs of recording or filing documents and instruments, examining titles, mailing, publishing, or advertising notices or documents, petitioning the land court to foreclose a tax title, including the serving of court documents and paying legal fees, with the maximum amount that may be spent being $10,000.
Thank you. Motion made, and do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Finance Committee recommendation not within the purview of the Finance Committee. Who would like to address the motion for 14A? Vicki.
Vicki Morrow, Town Accountant. Earlier, as Heather spoke about, we had to accept the Mass General Law to create a tax title revolving account, and we are currently, this article here will allow us to put fees in and to spend money out, so that our treasurer collector, Donna, will be able to do that, and there needs to be a maximum amount spent of $10,000. This way, we can alleviate the minimal amounts of money that's in the general fund and use it for other departments where we would pay for all those tax title expenses from this particular fund.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion read on Article 14A, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion on Article 14 passes unanimously. May I hear a motion for Article 14B?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town to vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, to authorize the operation of the revolving fund for the Park Commission for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2015, with specific receipts for usage fees collected to be spent by the Park Commission for the purpose of maintaining town parks, with the maximum amount that may be spent being $10,000.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Motion made and seconded. Who would like to address this? And the Finance Committee recommendation is not within the purview of the Finance Committee.
My name's Mark Reed, Chairman of the Park Commission. We have established fees associated with the using of the park for the maintenance. And we need a place to put that money so it doesn't go into the general funds. We now have Labrie Field in use. We have soccer games and leagues and baseball teams, and we need monies to maintain that, so that this fund will be used to maintain the parks.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion on Article 14B, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion on Article 14B passes unanimously. May I hear a motion for Article 14C, please?
I move the town to vote to pursue MGL Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, to authorize the operation of a revolving fund for the planning board to utilize for consulting charges for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2015, with fees collected for services with the maximum amount that may be spent being $15,000.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. The Finance Committee recommendation, it's not within the purview of the Finance Committee. Who would like to address this, please? Vicki.
Vicki Morrow, Town Accountant. With the departure of John Furman, who was a wealth of knowledge for the planning board, they have commissioned some consultants in order to help them with their services that they may need, and this fund will allow them to collect fees for those services and then pay those fees out. And they wanted to keep those separate from any administrative costs that they may incur down the road.
Thank you. Any comments, questions, discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion on Article 14C, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion under Article 14C passes unanimously. May I hear a motion for 14D, please?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town to vote pursuant to the provisions of Section 53E and a half of Chapter 44 of Mass General Laws to authorize the operation of revolving funds for certain town departments for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2015, with specific receipts credited to each fund, the purposes for which each fund may be spent, and the maximum that may be spent from each fund for the fiscal year as follows. Plumbing inspections, $15,000. Electrical inspections, $15,000. Planning board, $10,000. Zoning Board of Appeals, $3,000. Council on Aging van, $20,000. Dog licensing and control, $8,000. Weights and measures, $3,000.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Finance Committee recommendation not within the purview of the Finance Committee. Who would like to address this? Vicki?
Vicki Morrow, Town Accountant. These are revolving funds that need to be reestablished each year so that we may spend these amounts out of these particular funds. If they do not get authorized each year, then the remaining funds that are in there will revert back to the general fund. The only one on this list that actually we voted that way to begin with would be weights and measures.
Thank you. Any comments, questions, discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. Under 14D, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion under 14D passes unanimously. Article 15, we were waiting for a certain person. Am I correct? Town Administrator? Okay, you're here. Great. Okay, I need thanks, Mr. Neal. Hold on a sec. I need a motion for Article 15. We have our person in-house.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town to vote to transfer from Water Department retained earnings the sum of $75,000 for the research and development of a water system master plan.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Finance Committee recommendation. The Finance Committee recommends compliance with Mass General laws.
Thomas Neal, 18 Thomas Circle, Chairman, Board of Water Commissioners. We had a regular sanitary survey done by DEP, and in January received a lengthy letter detailing items that the Water Department needs to comply with, amongst which was establishing a new master plan for the Water Department, looking forward to expansion, growth, and supplies, et cetera. The current plan is now 20 years old, and so we're required to do this through DEP. We are going to seek outside professional services to help in drafting this plan, and request the transfer of the $75,000 to cover expenses that we expect to be incurred with that.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you, Ms. Neal. Yes, please step up to the mic.
Ed Gwinner, 11 Golden Circle. I'm sure that these issues have to be addressed, but could the $75,000 come from the approved money, the $175,000 that we approved for a new well several years ago and has never been built?
Who would like to answer that question? Vicki?
Vicki Morrow, Town Accountant. Basically, we would need to revote that money. That money was voted for a specific purpose and is still on our books to be used for the new well, but because it had a specific purpose, we would need to be able to revote that for a different purpose.
Yes, sir.
How much is in the account?
Which account?
How much is in the well account?
The well, there's $175,000 for that well that's still there. This $75,000 is coming from the retained earnings, which is the enterprise funds, sort of free cash, and there's $215,000 currently in there.
I've heard different from some people that are in the know. It's more like $68,000 are left in that account. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else like to comment? Question? Discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion under Article 15, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. The motion under Article 15 passes by majority. A motion for Article 16, please.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town to vote to transfer the sum of $25,000 from the ambulance receipts reserved for appropriations account to the ambulance stabilization fund.
Motion made and seconded.
Second.
I'm sorry, motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. Motion made and seconded. Finance Committee recommendations recommended. Who would like to address this, please? Vicki.
We established this ambulance stabilization fund last town meeting and decided going forward to put a minimum of $25,000 in there from our ambulance receipt reserve for appropriations to save money to purchase an ambulance when the time came.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion on Article 16, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. The motion for Article 16 passes unanimously. I'm going to divide the question under Article 17, stabilization funds. Who would like to make a motion for 17A?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town to vote to transfer $61,551 to the Highway Department to fund the purchase of a 2015 Ford F-450 or similar vehicle. Said sum shall be taken from the Capital Stabilization Fund.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Finance Committee recommendation recommended. Who would like to address this, please? Somebody? He's coming. We got to 10 o'clock. No hurry.
Randall Kump, Southampton Highway. This is to replace a 1997 Ford 350. These are our workhorse vehicles. We use them nearly every day for hauling material. This one also will come with a snow plow, so it is dual purpose for snow control as well.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion under Article 17A as read, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion on Article 17A passes unanimously. May I hear a motion for Article 17B, please?
I move the town to vote to transfer the sum of $47,000 to the library for the purchase of a heating and cooling system and related costs. Said sum shall be taken from the Capital Stabilization Fund.
Motion made and seconded.
Second.
And what I did not do is announce that that required a two-thirds vote. If anybody voted nay, I would have asked for the counters. So that two-third requirement was satisfied, and this particular 17B requires two-thirds also. Motion made and seconded. Who would like to address this, please?
Barbara Golden, Library Director. Our system is 19 years old, and many parts are obsolete, including the thermostats. The boiler would also be replaced, and the water heater. So this isn't replacing the entire system, only the parts that need replacing. And we have sent three proposals into the Capital Improvement Committee.
Thank you, Ms. Golden. Any comments, questions? This requires a two-thirds majority. We're going to vote and do a voice vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. The motion passes unanimously, therefore meeting the two-thirds requirement. May I have a motion for Article 17C, please?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town to vote to transfer the sum of $44,623 to the police department for the purchase of a new cruiser with camera, and the sum shall be taken from the capital stabilization account.
Motion made and seconded? I'm sorry,
Second.
motion made, waiting for the second.
Second.
Thank you. Motion made and seconded. The Finance Committee recommendation is recommended. Who would like to address this, please?
Good evening, Mike Goyette, Lieutenant with the Southampton Police College Highway. This is to replace a cruiser in our fleet. The last time we had a new cruiser was in 2012, and we got a 2011 leftover. It's an aging fleet, as you can understand. So we are looking to replace one of the Crown Vics, which they aren't making any longer, so we're going to replace that with the new Ford Explorer. And this price is including a dash camera and lettering.
Thank you, Lieutenant Goyette. Any questions, comments? Come right forward.
Nancy Carrier, 16 David Street. Two questions. One is, what happens to the vehicle that we do have that we're replacing? And the second question is, how much is in the capital stabilization fund?
Okay, two questions. What happens to the vehicle? Lieutenant, you want to?
What happens is we have placed the old cruisers in the back of the highway department. And it's been great as we've had Crown Vics, because we can then cannibalize off the old cruisers for parts that might be needed, and that's worked out great. However, now we're going to be going into a different model, so that won't be happening. However, it will be placed in the back of the highway department and still used for the other Crown Vics that will still be in the fleet over the next several years till we replace those.
Thank you. That answer part A of your question? Part B, how much?
So to answer Part B, Margaret Larson, 9 David Street, and clerk of the Capital Improvement Committee. The total available funds we were given were $223,613. Of that, we've allocated $186,174, which leaves about 17% in reserve for any upcoming issues that happen over the course of the year.
Thank you. That satisfy your question? Great. Any questions, comments?
Jessica McConnell, 24 High Street. At some point, do the vehicles that are sitting in the back of the highway department, and I have seen those, at some point, do they actually get sold for scrap metal so that we can gain any final returns from those?
Okay, who would like to address that question? The remaining vehicles, are they scrapped for scrap metal eventually?
I personally don't have any information that takes place. I turned to Randall, and at this time, he's not sure either of what happens with them.
They're still there. Nobody knows what's going to happen to them as they currently exist. Is that summing up what
Correct.
everybody
I mean,
agrees?
they have disappeared over the years. I know that they have been taken.
Okay.
I think from the past highway superintendent, they've been taken by some company, but I don't have any solid information on that.
All right.
I believe this gentleman might.
Charlie, no? Are you giving an answer?
Charlie Konecki, Valley Road. In theory, the town selectmen are supposed to declare surplus property. They do this occasionally, and then they're supposed to be auctioned off to the bidders. At least that's the protocol.
Okay. Does that answer your question? Yes? Okay. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Need a little help with the emotions, but can we amend this to make sure that they're sold and the money comes back to the town? Because scrap vehicles are worth at least a couple thousand each. So if there's a couple sitting there,
That's not a bad idea, but it's outside the four corners of our article. So yesterday, and I didn't say that today, it's your meeting, you can do what you want within the four corners. So right now, we're only talking about the merits or lack thereof of 17C. What happens to these other vehicles is outside, it's out of the scope.
So we can we ask this to be tabled
You-
until
you
they put
can-
it back in?
Well,
'Cause
you can do whatever you'd like. You can certainly make a motion to table, or you can go to the select board and bring this up and be put on the agenda and bring up the topic, then it's your choice.
But then if we vote for this now, we're gonna pay for a vehicle, but have no guarantee that we're gonna recover our assets other than just let them sit and rot.
That is, as I understand how this motion is
So-
read, that I would agree with you, yes.
So
and-
then I would recommend we table it until it's written properly, making whole of all our assets.
We have a motion to table, which basically means to kill the article. Do we have a second? I didn't hear a second. You second it? Who seconded it? Okay. Motion made and seconded table. There is no discussion. Takes 2/3. So all those in favor of tabling this article, I'm going to have you raise your cards. All those in favor of tabling, killing this article, taking it off the agenda for this evening completely, all those in favor, raise your cards. I need a counters. Okay. Those opposed to tabling it, please raise your cards. I'll call it as 2/3, so the table fails. We'll continue with the article. Any other comments, any questions?
Liz Moulton, Pleasant Street Board of Selectmen. Given the conversation, I think it's important to note that we do need to keep the current Crown Vics for parts for the cars that are still in the fleet. However, I think it's also important to note that the Board of Selectmen would be able to take this up at their next meeting in order to decide in a more concrete fashion what to do with the cars when they're no longer needed.
Thank you. And that conversation is not part of this motion that we're going to be voting on tonight. All those in favor of the motion on Article 17C, please indicate by raising your cards. Opposed? I don't see any. So it passes unanimously, meeting the 2/3 requirement. Do I have a motion under 17D, please?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town to vote to transfer the sum of $9,000 to the fire department for the purchase of firefighter turnout gear. Said sum shall be taken from the capital stabilization fund.
Motion made, and do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Who would like to address this? This also requires a 2/3 vote, and Finance Committee recommendation is recommended.
John Workman, Fire Chief. We have 30 guys, we have 30 sets of gear. Gear lasts for 10 years. This is a proposal, we're buying 3 sets of gear each year so that by the end of 10 years, everyone will have compliant gear. It'll have to be extended into perpetuity to keep guys safe in gear.
Thank you, Chief Workman. Any comments, questions? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion on Article 17D, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed, please indicate by saying nay. Unanimous, hearing no nays, it meets the 2/3 requirement. May I hear a motion under Article 17E, please?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town to vote to transfer the sum of $24,000 to Norris School for an updated phone system. Said sum shall be taken from the capital stabilization fund.
Motion made, do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Who would like to address this?
Margaret Larson, 9 David Street. So the current phone system here does not allow teachers to call directly out to 911 in case of emergency. They need to call the main switchboard, which then takes care of that call for them. And so the school has requested that we provide a new phone system that enables them to do that in case of emergency.
Thank you.
Jessica McConnell, 24 High Street. I worked telecommunications, installing phone systems like the one in this building for about 15 years before I became a school bus driver. $24,000 is actually a very good price for a new system. The fact that this school does not do that is very behind the times. I've installed systems like this in many schools, and I can't believe Norris doesn't already have it. So it is a necessary thing. Right now, if they have an emergency in a room, they actually have to call the main office and have them call out, which is, that should be corrected. They should be able to make calls out from the rooms. It is possible to restrict the phones as well so that students can't just pick up the phone and make an outgoing call. They can be coded in such a way as to prevent that from happening. So it's not going to drive up the phone bill or anything to that effect. It just makes the system much faster and more efficient.
Thank you.
Oh, and they can also then use it for intercom as well, so it would be a backup intercom system too.
Thank you. I will not accept a motion to amend to get better speakers or better microphones. That'll be out of the scope of this article. Any others? Comments? Questions? All those in favor of the motion under 17E, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Please signify by saying nay. The motion under Article 17E passes unanimously, meeting our 2/3 requirement. Thank you for coming this evening. Our business is done. I will take a motion to dissolve. Second. Motion made and second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Have a great evening. Thank you for the counters. Thank you for Deputy Moderator, Town Clerk, Town Treasurer, Town Accountant, Finance Committee, Select Board, Town Administrator, and the lawyer last evening, and Paul Fish and Nicole for East Hampton Cable. Safe home. Thank you.